Heyo, and welcome back to another video. And this is going to be sort of an update from my last video, talking about how bad the hair quality is in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, if you don't know this issue, I'd highly advise watching the last video, but it's mainly due to hair fizz. Now, if you don't know how this issue works, it essentially has to do with photo mode. If the game is on one frame for more than 10 seconds, it starts to kind of pixelate and melt. I personally play at 1440p with the 4080 Super, so honestly seeing this is really strange considering my hardware. Now recently this was brought up in an interview where I guess the hair fizz persists within the Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. The interview is actually pretty interesting in the sense where Hamaguchi actually goes over the information why the hair fizz is on the Switch 2 version of the game, but this more so relates how it works in engine. So despite this being 7 Remake Intergrade, it also probably had its effects on 7 Rebirth, as they're using old pipelines to create the hair and still using that philosophy within part 2 and probably going into part 3. But I want to make this issue kind of a bigger deal because it ruins photo mode. For the people that want to take cool screenshots but end up getting screwed over because the hair ends up getting ruined within the process of using photo mode specifically, or with the game being frozen for a period of time within game when you're trying to get that right angle, for instance. Now, talking towards the article itself and, you know, why the Switch 2 hair problem happens, now it is an interesting interview that I highly recommend you guys reading. However, I'm going to take kind of an excerpt from it because I think it's kind of like the more technical reasoning as to why it happens in probably all versions and potentially part 3 of Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, we'll say. There is a chance that it may or may not be there as frequently or as bad, because just maybe they might actually improve or fix this issue by part 3 and potentially fix it in Rebirth, but we'll have to wait and see. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, we use a technique called TAA temporal anti-aliasing to prevent character outline from appearing jagged. TAA works by referencing not only the current frame being rendered, but also information from previous frames, layering them together to produce a smoother, near high resolution image. Now, hair is made up with extremely fine elements, so if you render it as individual strands can flicker at the pixel level. To address this, we've implemented a special process whereby each strand of hair switches on or off at the pixel level from frame to frame. When combined with TAA, this allows the fine lines of the hair to connect smoothly across frames. Now, what I think is happening with the PC issue specifically is when each frame and each strand switches from on to off at every pixel level, frame to frame. So when the game is in motion, you never really see this issue really persist, but when the game is in a frozen state, like through the game engine itself, and in photo mode, I'm thinking it's because the game thinks it's not being in use or in frame, so it's trying to adjust something that doesn't need to be necessarily adjusted or turned off. So that's really what I'm thinking is happening with this specific issue on PC. And not even just the hair, I have noticed this with, in fact, the overall environment sometimes. If you go to take a screenshot, it just something really does look off and certain things start really looking pixelated. So I do think something needs to change in how they do this for the PC version specifically, instead of doing a resolution scale. I think giving us more options and how this stuff is rendered would be really great in that sense. Like, give us kind of Resident Evil levels of customization on the graphics while still having a optional potentially resolution thing, because it does make it awfully confusing to adjust that and to make sure you're on the right resolution, or you're even playing at 1440p and not in the quality it not going down, even if when you slide it to 100% on both the sliders. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Square Enix tends to release support for specifically PC and then abandon them. Someone in my previous video talked about the Final Fantasy 16 memory leaks. And apparently they never fixed that, so it is kind of aggravating to see again. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully in a video coming soon I just cover some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth mods and take a break from complaining about the game. Not that it was always kind of about that, but I had a very bad concern when trying to use photo mode and trying to get certain thumbnails together, and it just not working out because of this pixelation problem. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.